Hey guys, so great news. Manchester United are back on top of the league, and that is a fact. You can't take this one away from us, like Kevin Friend tried to do with Harry Maguire's goal and the red card for Robbie Brady in the first half for denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Now look, you're here because you want some tactical analysis. Obviously, tactically, we're top of the league, and that's the first point to note. But in terms of detailed tactical analysis, we'll come back to the pitch alongside me that Deck has very kindly designed for me. I don't know if you've seen, but on the Scran Cam just now, go check that out on the video. Deck was in fine form tonight, and we're both delighted, analysing, breaking down how United were able to get to the top of the league, who played well, rating the players' performances, all that sort of stuff. So go and check out that video if you haven't already. Now, in terms of tactical analysis, I've had a bit of feedback. I'm going to reorganise things, rework it, do it a different way with a different focus. I'm going to focus more on the decisions Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the coaching staff have made and how they've influenced the result, rather than picking up incidents on the pitch. I'll do a bit of that as well, but I'm going to focus it more on the decisions the coaching staff and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have made. Now, the first decision they've got to make, obviously, is the lineup they put out. Every single game, the coaching staff have got to select the most appropriate team for the game. And now we know Victor Lindelof's had some injury issues lately, as has Eric Bailly. He obviously missed the last game. And so it was a little bit of a surprise possibly to see Bailly back in the starting lineup. But against two big physical strikers that Burnley have, and the way they like to play with long balls, we needed someone who could defend that right channel and be physical. And Eric Bailly over Victor Lindelof has that advantage. He's much better in the air, he's much more physical, and he's much more capable of beating a striker in aerial duels. Now, in terms of in front of him in the pivot, this was where the big change came in from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Rather than Fred and Scott McTominay, he went for Paul Pogba and Nemanja Matic. And the reason this was big was because of the implications of it. The reason he went with Nemanja Matic, as we'll come to in a minute, was because he could drop into that back three and create a 3v2 for United with the back three of Matic, Maguire and Eric Bailly up against the Burnley strikers. And that allowed us to progress the ball beyond the Burnley press a little bit more easily at times. We'll come on to that in a minute because that worked sometimes, but other times it didn't quite go to plan. Playing Paul Pogba again was a big call from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and the reason for that was because Pogba, in some ways, at the start of the season especially, didn't seem to want to work as hard. Now, I think, and I've said the whole way to be fair, I think that was because of COVID, genuinely. He seems to have had his fitness massively knocked, and he's, to all credit to the lad, he's worked hard to get it back into top shape, and he's now working really, really hard on the pitch. And if Paul Pogba is matching the work rate of Fred and Scott McTominay, he's got to play every single game. George Gould says, ref was a disgrace, unbelievable, Burnley were robbed. What are you complaining about, mate? Ref was disgrace in the first half, not giving United the decisions. But yeah, beyond that, it was, I don't know what Burnley are complaining about, useless all game. Now, so in terms of, tactically, where this panned out from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the way he thought this would pan out, Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw would push on, and the back three here would form Bailly, Maguire and Nemanja Matic. And that gives you the 3v2 against the Burnley strikers, allows you to play the ball around about the back a bit, and hopefully try and play it beyond that Burnley press. And what happened in the first half especially, that was really, really quite interesting to see, and maybe was a bit of a black mark against Solskjaer's team selection, the way things happened, was that Pogba here was obviously free in that role in front of that back three. And he would often occupy the space here in between the two strikers, sort of behind them in their shadows, and in front of the two Burnley central midfield players. And what sometimes happened was Pogba would pull out to the left a little bit deeper and a bit wider, and the Burnley midfield player would follow him, and Fernandes would pull out a little bit higher into the number 10 role and often to the right. And what that left was a big gap in here. And what we needed, what we desperately were calling out for that entire first half, was a full player, a striker to drop in there, link the play, just come deep, show for that ball and receive that pass off the defence. If that had happened, I think we would have scored a goal much earlier, especially if it was Martial linking the play. He's fantastic at sort of getting in between the lines there and finding that pass through to Cavani, Fernandes or Rashford running in behind. And for whatever reason that didn't happen, obviously Martial was stuck out on the left, and again, that was a deliberate ploy from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because he had Martial and Luke Shaw looking to cause a bit of a problem for Burnley down the left-hand side. Now, in terms of the way that played out in the first half, not quite as well as we thought, But, we got into half-time at 0-0. It was really important. We didn't get the time on the ball that we wanted. We weren't quite able to relax into the game like we needed to. So it was important that we got into half-time at 0-0, didn't concede an early goal. And I think in that first half, Nemanja Matic, Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly all deserve a lot of credit for not panicking on the ball too much. There were a few times, especially in the first 5-10 minutes, we tried to force passes, tried to play too quickly and nearly got ourselves into trouble. So it was nice to see us, Matic and Pogba especially, putting their foot on the ball, relaxing, taking a few touches and letting the team grow into the game. In the first half, Burnley especially were really compact. There was very little space in between the lines, apart from, as I said, when Pogba would pull to one side deep, Fernandes would push up high and to the other side, and there was that gap in between the Burnley central midfield players. Aside from that, there was very little space in between the Burnley players inside their block. So it was really important that we kept our composure, didn't try and force things, and just waited. Because in the second half, the spaces were much bigger. The spaces between the defence and midfield were massive, and that's why United were so dominant in that second half in particular. So it was fantastic to see as the game went on, United's influence grew, and we always looked likely to score. Aside from the fact that we got robbed by Kevin Friend in that first half, we should have definitely been in the lead a lot earlier. Now, Sean Dyche, obviously, so his approach with those central midfield players following Pogba and Fernandes was that he knew United struggled to progress the ball sometimes. And you could see that in the way Burnley approached the game. They were pressing with their front players, sometimes up against the back three here of Bailly, Maguire and Matic, but they weren't pressing to win the ball back. They were pressing to get within a yard, just stand there and make it difficult for us to play the ball forward. They're pressing not to win the ball back, as I said, not to be really aggressive, but just to try and make it difficult for us to penetrate through their block. And that's what they did for a long time. And it was important that United didn't sort of panic, didn't get too desperate and didn't force passes. And that did, and for the vast majority of the time, we did well there. Now, in the first half, obviously, we were under a bit of pressure from Burnley diagonals, especially from this right-hand side here. Burnley did look to play the balls to the back post quite often, knowing full well that Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as we've said so many times, I'm not going to labour it, he struggles on the back post. And so on this occasion, not only were they looking to play balls over to him, but it was a case of getting Robbie Brady and Eric Peters both up against him, so that not only has he got to deal with the balls, which he struggles to head away normally, but he's also got an overload as well. So Burnley tried really hard on that, and it's, I suppose, a good sign that we didn't concede from those, even though there were a few hairy moments at times. And especially towards the end of the game, United did really well to hold out. Now, in terms of what I was really impressed with, the mentality on the pitch. Now, we've talked a bit about Solskjaer's decisions, the way he set out the team, the way he tried to get the boys playing. But what happened was, I think in the second half especially, what was nice to see was Nemanja Matic's intelligence on the pitch. Because in the first half, he was tasked with forming that back three. And sometimes the Burnley players didn't press, sometimes they just sat in. And in the second half, I don't know whether he was told this at half-time or whether he decided it himself, but rather than dropping into that back three, a lot of the time, he just stayed in the middle of the park here. And that was because the gap between the Burnley lines was so big that we would actually it gave United a bigger advantage from him being in between the lines and able to give us that 3v2 overload. Against Burnley's two centre mids in the 4-4-2, we had Pogba, Matic and Bruno Fernandes. So Matic's intelligence there to maybe not do what he was tasked with doing before the game, but switch his role on the pitch, make that decision to go and give us that 3v2 overload, that was fantastic. That was a big factor as well in helping us dominate the game and stop Burnley counter-attacking too much. Now look, I'm not going to labour the point too much. United were terrific. We dominated the game, thoroughly deserved to win. We were robbed of a couple of decisions in the first half especially. I'm delighted we've been able to bring out the win and come away with all 3 points, and we're top of the league. Ready for Liverpool at Anfield at the weekend. Come on, just got to go and win that one now, and we're 6 points clear of Liverpool. And a year ago, even at the start of the season, when people were criticising Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, wanting Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out, myself included, I was criticising him. I've never said I wanted Ole out. I've criticised him a fair few times though. I never